So, welcome. This is the first episode of the Ripples podcast, and I'm joined today by Nicola, and hopefully we'll give you a chance to get to know us both and a bit more about Ripples. So, Nicola, let's start with an easy one. Tell us about how Ripples began.
So Ripples began when my father, Roger Kime, was working, and we were living in Canada, in Toronto. And his job at the time was working for a shower door manufacturing company called Showerlux. And as part of his role, he travelled around North America, visiting all the showrooms there. And one showroom that he particularly enjoyed visiting was called Ginger's. And it was owned by a wonderful woman called Ginger. And she became something of a mentor to Dad. And her showroom was stunning. And it showed all the top products within the bathroom industry, and the service levels were great. And it inspired Roger to want to open his own business when we returned to the UK. So when we did come back, the plan was always to return to the UK. He chose Bath. We'd never lived in Bath. We'd never visited Bath. I think him and Mum had perhaps spent a day there. But they moved us all over to Bath. And from a red telephone box in a little village called Freshford on the outskirts of Bath, Ripples' story began. He used to stand there with his little bag of coins, and he'd ring all the suppliers and say, hello, it's Roger from Ripples calling, making out he was calling from his office. And I'd like to sell your products. Would you set up an account? And that's kind of how it all began in that sense. They then found the premises on the London Road in Bath, which is still the flagship premises today for the group. And 36 years later, that location is still there. The size of it grew. Initially, it was just the sort of first side of the showroom. They then took on the middle bit and then the end bit as well. So it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And that's kind of how it began.
Quite a story.
Oh, and he wanted to be in Bath because of the Roman connection, the Roman city of Bath. He felt that was very apt for having a bathroom showroom. And actually, the architect that he worked with, who was a chap called Julian, who was a London-based architect, who was a friend of one of Roger's sisters, actually designed the showrooms to have Roman columns in them, which for many, many years were very much a template for all the new showrooms that opened.
And is Roger still involved in the business today?
Oh, yes. He's retired. He has retired, but it's in his blood. It's his passion, and I don't think he'll ever really not be in it. So he says he leaves it to us, but really, he's always in the background there.
And what about Sandra? You haven't mentioned too much about Sandra.
So Mum has always been the backbone of the business, and it might surprise people to know because Dad's very, very personable, very enthusiastic, very passionate, and Mum's very much the quieter one behind the scenes, which is her preference. But I would say to this day, Dad has never made a decision in the business that Mum hasn't been involved in. And he very much respects and wants her involvement in the decision making. Her role within the business was very much the back office, so everything post sale. I think Dad would acknowledge that wasn't really his interest. He was very much wanted to be on the showroom floor, talking to the visitors, selling. So anything post sale was very much put with Sandra and for her to do all the ordering, all the accounting, all the bookkeeping, making sure the goods arrived on time, all the deliveries. And to this day, she's still the company secretary of our business, Ripples Holdings. So, yeah.
Excellent. A common question that I'm asked is, where does the name Ripples come from?
I love this question because this is very much part of my upbringing and how I remember it all coming together was, so Roger is an avid music lover. Music's always been very prevalent in our family. And one of his absolute favourite bands, probably the most favourite band, was Genesis. So growing up, it was always Genesis being played on the, was it called an 8-track in the car?
It was, yeah.
On holidays to the Isle of Wight. And huge Genesis fan. He went to see them play live many, many times. And when we came back and obviously he researched all the top brands and, thought of people like McDonald's and all the key brand names, and he wanted something that was different. And the story goes that they were driving along the car, Mum and Dad, and the song Ripples by Genesis was playing. Stopped at a traffic light. It was raining. He caught a puddle, saw the ripple, and so be it.
History was made.
Yeah, that's where the name came from. So
there you go.
Yeah. So Paul, what would you say Ripples looks like today as a business?
I believe it looks very similar to how you described Roger and Sandra's vision of Ripples, to be honest, in that there's a driving force in each showroom of franchisees who've got a mixture of skills that are customer focused, driven to serve and to be with customers similar to people that they are in many ways in terms of personalities. The products are different, but the pedigree of products is the same. We've just, in effect, found other Roger and Sandras, and we found people that can know their own area, like Roger and Sandra New Bath, who can socialise and network in that area, who are proud to work with those people and the products that we have, and more importantly, the system that we've now put together and generated. So I think characteristically, we call ourselves a national company now, which we're proud of. We're able to advertise in national magazines now. We cover different corners. We can go down to Cornwall and up to the northwest and another 3 hours east and so on. And it's fair to say, I think we're now a leader in our industry and a voice in our industry, someone who's recognised for our professionalism. I would describe us as a very colourful business. And I genuinely believe that the suppliers who give a good view of us and our role in the industry would describe us as a very well-run organisation because of the franchise model that we've put in place and the quality of the people that are in the business. So, I think that we haven't really changed our DNA a great deal. We've just grown stronger.
Mm. So what do you think the future holds for Ripples, Paul?
Hopefully more of the same, Nicola, in all honesty. We're looking for more partners. We're looking for the right partners. And ultimately, there's plenty of places in the country that Ripples could prosper and doesn't exist at the moment. And if we can find those people and we can make it work, we'll go there. I think it's as simple as that. So I think it's quite exciting, the opportunity. I still consider us a young company, despite our years. There's still enough energy and desire to do it. And I also believe there's enough opportunity for us to do it. I think more than ever, I believe people want to buy their bathroom from somebody who specialises and understands and loves bathrooms. And there's actually not many companies that they can recognise that do that. And we are perhaps one of the most recognisable companies that can do that. So I'm very excited about it, actually.
And what does the right partner look like?
That's a big question. It's you feel it easier than you can describe it sometimes, because they need to have a bit of Roger. You've talked a lot about Roger. They need to have the skills of Sandra as well, or to be able to recruit them, or the other way around. But really, they need to be personable, optimistic. They need to be able to manage what can be difficult situations like running your own business. They need to love what we already do and want to be doing that anyway. They need to get on with us. We are who we are. We're proud of who we are as a team. They need to add something, whatever that is. It could be experience, knowledge, character, personality. And we need to feel like we're growing stronger and actually having an opportunity to get excited about what we can do with that person. And then I think we can always make it work. I genuinely believe that. Nicola, we've obviously worked hard to try to make Ripples the best place to work that we can. Why do you think it is a good place to work? What would you say to someone that's maybe looking to join the business as why it is a good place to work?
I'm maybe not the best person to ask because I'm so, Ripples runs through my blood, and I'm so biased about it as an organisation. And I think, to me, the culture within the company, my personal view is that it's great. I think it's very inclusive. I think that we give plenty of opportunity to people to grow within their roles and to develop within their roles. I think if you're passionate about design and you've got a confident personality and you believe in that I don't believe there's a better company to work for in the UK if design is your passion and the route that you want to pursue for your career. Because every showroom, because it is a franchise, is a small independent business essentially. And when you join that business, you're accountable, but you're also really integral to the success of that business. And the franchisee very much brings you into their business and to their family as well, because they are all family businesses. So you kind of connect with it in a way that you wouldn't necessarily if you were going to work for a multiple brand that, you know, is a big brand that's owned by, you know, Mr. whoever he is that's very, you know, wealthy, but you never see. I'm very proud of the fact that I know every single designer in the organisation. I'm on first name terms with them, as silly as that may sound, but I don't believe that happens in a lot of companies. We offer extensive training when people join us, and that's ongoing always. There's an awful lot of support in the business, and there's very much a wanting to help and wanting to help other people get better and improve in their role throughout the whole organisation. So it's not just that it's you and your franchisee, which in some showrooms it could be that, you know, you are literally in there with the franchisee, your boss, on a daily basis, and you haven't got a sort of, you know, teammate to bounce your moans and groans off of. So you've got to get on well together. And yeah, I'm really proud of the fact that that does seem to happen. And you know, designers are really rewarded well. They're bigged up. I always use the term that I want to make a designer a rock star within their showroom. You know, we don't hide our designers away. We're not worried about them being snapped up by competitors, because we feel that we look after them. And, you know, I think the longevity of many of our team members highlights that we clearly do something right. I think Dina in Solihull, who joined us in 2000, she's the longest serving Ripples employee. We've got a designer in Winchester, Kerry, who's been with us, I think, 19 years. It's rare that someone joins and leaves after a year or two. If they're going to leave, they kind of leave within the first few months. And that's generally when they realise the sales target has kicked in and they perhaps, you know, understandably fair enough, realise that perhaps sales is perhaps a bit too demanding, challenging, out of their comfort zone, and that the design is very much what appealed for the role. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of variety in the role as well, that, you know, it's designing, it's selling. So you're meeting a really wide, varied group of individuals. We attract some fantastic customers to the showroom, and you're getting to know them. You're going into their private space as well. If it's an ensuite bathroom, for example, you know, you're going through their bedroom to get to that room. So it's their really sort of private area, and they clearly trust you to allow you to do that. So a lot of our clients become friends of the designers and the franchisees, which I think is a huge testament to them as individuals. And we get an awful lot of repeat business, which, you know, I'm very proud of that. And the reviews that we receive, you know, on a weekly basis across the group are just fantastic. And what I love is, you know, it's not just talking about the location of a showroom, it's actually mentioning the names of the people that looked after them within that business. And, you know, clearly the client values that one-to-one relationship.
You've mentioned the designer an awful lot, and rightly so. What do you think they would say? You know, you see them all the time. What would they say to you is the thing that they most love about their job? I know you've said about, you know, going into people's homes and maybe seeing a project through to completion. But what's the thing that seems to be exciting them? Because they're a really motivated bunch, aren't they?
I think I would quote perhaps someone like Neil, who's the senior designer at Bath, who I asked of him, you know, within the last year or so, I said, what motivates you in your role? And he said, doing a good job, seeing the end result and seeing the client happy. And I think that probably sums it up well, in that, you know, in my experience, most of our designers, it's not about the sale or the commission. It's ultimately about, yes, getting the order, but the end result, fulfilling the client's dream of what they came in and thought they would want, and then seeing it, the end result ultimately. I think that's what makes the designers the most proud.
It makes us proud too, doesn't it?
Yeah, very,
Good.
very. So, Paul, when someone new joins the business, be it a franchisee or a designer, what can they expect when they first start within Ripples?
Well, flippantly, I'd say probably a bit of a headache at first because it's, we're a very technical environment. There's products are technical, and we're working with water, we're working with legislation, and we're working with an area that has language that we don't always understand. And because we understand what that's like, we've both came from other industries, many years ago to come into Ripples. We know how daunting that can be. So we try to create a nice soft landing, in all honesty, to make sure that they understand that we understand. And therefore, what we do is we make sure that we use our supplier partners who are the best positioned certainly the best trained to provide the knowledge that they have on their products. We try to get people out of the showroom. We get them into those supplier factories to understand how things are made and the journey that they go on. We get them into clients' homes to understand what actually happens when a bathroom is being installed. And I guess in many ways, we try to lower the expectations that we have of them, because they're putting themselves usually under a bit too much pressure, and making sure that they absorb our culture, our personality, our methods, the characteristics of our customer, which can change from customer to customer. And often we find that they feel like they've made little progress in those 3 months, but after 6 months, they realize they've made a lot of progress because of that. So I think that probably the word I would use is it's a nice holistic approach. And I mean, you yourself organize a lot of events for the designers, as an example. And I know it's not always about the designer, but you organize things like the designer day, and there's other training days and sales days. Just tell us about those, because I think they're really important as well.
Yeah, I think they are too. And when we have the showrooms, as a franchisee, you're coming in, you're having your own showroom, but you are part of a bigger picture, you're part of the group. So we think, you and I think it's really important to have group events throughout the year. So we do all come together and everyone can learn best practices from each other. So for the designer side of things, we have our annual designer day, which is a great day. It's one of my favourite days of the year. And, we get all the designers along. Every single designer in the organisation attends. We keep it a varied agenda. We always try and invite somebody from within the industry to come and talk to them. So this year we had Carol Annett, the wonderful Carol, who is the interiors editor of Country and Townhouse magazine, and also has a fantastic podcast called The House Guest, where she seems to interview anyone that's, it within the interiors world. And she came and talked to the whole group this year, and she talked about, soft furnishings, fabrics, all the fabulous designers that she's met. And I think it's great for them to learn from people like her, to keep them current and seeing what's the trends are within the industry as well. So we also set a design challenge, which some love, some hate. They all get the same brief, the same budget, the same room dimensions, and they all have to bring their own interpretation of that brief. So we get basically some 35 odd designs brought along, and it's great because actually, although many of them do not like it, I think they enjoy it on the day because they actually can ask questions of each other and ask, why have you done what you've done there, and what product is that? How have you done that? How have you learnt to do that particular rendering? And so it's great to share the best practices during that day.
Why don't they like it?
I think they don't like the fact that it's a dummy brief, essentially, and they think it's a bit of a time zap and they're busy. And but yeah, I think the majority do enjoy it. So yeah, I think we'll stick with it. And
what was the feedback on Carol this time?
I was pleasantly surprised because she is certainly she's not within the bathroom industry directly. So she was talking very broadly about interiors. And I think some of it perhaps wasn't relevant maybe to what we were trying to achieve in the day. But actually, they all really enjoyed it, because I think it just showed them that, there is this whole interiors world out there that they need to keep in tune with. Because ultimately our clients, they read those publications, they listen to those podcasts, they know those interior designers. We need to be seeing what's going on.
What's interesting across your different answers, I guess because of the franchising aspects and because of the culture, you've actually described Ripples as a very flat structure, in that we don't have an HR department, we don't have lots of layers of management. Is effectively there's everybody's one team with a different role to do. Everybody communicates to each other ultimately in the same way, on the same level, and everybody's free to communicate. And are there things that also happen within the organisation in terms of, can they talk to each other? Can they message each other or email each other or share information? How does that work?
Absolutely, and that goes on, every day, every week throughout the group. It's rare that we all come together. I think the Christmas party is probably the only other opportunity that everybody's together. But on a daily, weekly basis, I see emails all the time from, a designer that's saying, I've got a client that wants this particular bath or has seen this tile in a magazine. It's not something I'm familiar with. Has anyone seen it? Someone, if not 4 or 5 people, will reply with an answer and a suggestion, and there's always help. And I think that's a big part of it as well, why it works so well, is that you're not on your own. So, if you're in a designer in a showroom and perhaps your franchisee isn't of a design background, you might feel that you're sort of alone in the creative process, but actually you've got a whole team of people, working alongside you in different showrooms that will support you.
We've also made that very deliberate, haven't we? I mean, we've always tried to make sure that everybody's seen to matter. We have our newsletters that are going out every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If someone's had a baby, someone's done something for charity, somebody's just joined the business, someone's got a hobby, we want to get to know them, don't we? And we try to...
I mean, our marketing...
We're not about numbers, are we? With names,
Yeah, very much so, yeah. I mean, I think you and I pride ourselves on that, really, and that's the culture that, Mum and Dad created all those years ago, and we've definitely embraced that and built on that. Our marketing team, Rachel and Harriet, as you say, every bi-weekly they're producing a newsletter to the group, telling everyone what's going on. And, it could be about the Snowdon challenge that Harriet organised. And, we got 30 or 32 of us from the whole group, and a few friends and family as well, climbing up Snowdon, raising, I think, £20,000 for the fabulous charity that we support. It includes so many variations of what's going on in the whole organisation. We do a sort of meet and greet of any new designers that have joined. We talk about, who's top of the leaderboard for the Ish incentive that we're running at the moment. So Ish is as you know, Paul, it's the most important bathroom exhibition in Europe. And
so they get to go, don't they?
They get to go. Yeah. So whoever's top of the table, the top 10 designers get to go with you and Rachel and they're treated like VIPs over there. So that's always, so we're doing a countdown in the newsletter on that at the moment. So it's I would hate Ripples to be a them and us scenario. Yeah. And I think it definitely is the opposite of that.
And I think it's also fair to say that one thing that we're pretty consistent about, and you're particularly keen to do, is make sure that if any designer is new to the business, that you try and get maybe 3 or 4 of them as the business has grown and we've got new people down to Bath in front of you, and really roll our sleeves up, put some biscuits on the table and literally say, what is the Ripples way? And what do we actually do? What's our process? What's our methods? What's really going to work? And to, I guess, encourage them to be, I guess, individual in that process, would you say?
Yeah, I do that. And I think it's really important, because I think it's really important that those individuals that are at the front line of our business, you and I very rarely see our customers, see the Ripples customers. Sure. And the designers are at the forefront. It's them that are meeting and greeting them every day alongside the franchisees. So I've always felt it's really important for the designer to understand who Ripples are and the backstory, like we spoke about earlier, where the name comes from, why Ripples even began, who Roger and Sandra are, because clients love that. They love hearing that story. The press love hearing it when we go to London and meet the National Interiors press. They love the fact it's a family business. And I think it's important for new designers to the group to know the backstory and share that with clients, because that's what they're buying into. It's not just about buying a bathroom from Ripples and buying product. It's actually they're buying into the Ripples ethos, who we are as individuals and personalities. So, yeah. I
mean, terms are used a lot are the Ripples way, the Ripples ethos, the family aspect. What does it mean? These they're used freely internally, but what does it mean that we're a family business? We know what family is, but how does that affect the business? What sort of influence does it have over it?
I think it means that we all care enormously, and I'm sure our competitors do as well. I have no doubt they do. Everyone cares about their own business, obviously, but I think we really care, and we want to know our client. We want to understand them. It's not just about taking orders. It's about fulfilling their dream. It's creating their dream bathroom. Yeah.
So let's rewind. Your first days in Ripples, what was your first job? In fact, let's go to the stage before that. What made you join Ripples?
Honestly,
other than desperation, needing pocket money or whatever.
Yeah, it was literally that. I think I had been working in London. I'd been working for a PR company in London and hated it. Hated being in London. Although I thought I would love being up there, I didn't like it at all. So I came back to Bath with my tail between my legs, and Dad, who, he's got a very strong work ethic. There was no way I wasn't going to be doing something. So he got me into the showroom in the back office. And I literally these in the days of typewriters, and I sat typing delivery notes, did deliveries. I can remember driving over to Gloucester in my Triumph Dolomite.
Nice.
Delivering products to a client there. And and I think he obviously saw a bit of him in me, and that he knew that I would enjoy talking to the clients, I think. So he suggested I get out onto the showroom floor and just shadow him a bit, I think, which is what I did. And I did love it. I really did. And I think I was 24 at the time, so 1994, I think I joined Ripples. And I was very wet behind the ears. I didn't have a clue about bathrooms, the technicality of them, but I loved chatting to the people that came in and finding out all about them. And if I felt I'd sort of clicked with them and got them on board with, Ripples as a company, then I'd introduce them to a designer, and they were in safe hands as far as I was concerned. So I was kind of the maitre d' in the early days of I sat at the front desk in Bath in the showroom, and every single visitor that came in, I wanted to be the one to talk to them.
So you're manager of the showroom now at this point?
Yeah. So, I think... I think ultimately Dad wanted to focus on franchising the business, which is when you became involved ultimately, and I'll ask you about that in a minute. But so he was less and less involved, and kind of just left it to me. I was like, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but let's get some good designers. So we employed 3 designers, Michelle, Natasha, and Janine, and I worked very closely with them. We had a full-time accounts guy in the office. We had a full-time sort of customer care admin lady as well, and a full-time stores person. So it was a big old ship, a lot of overheads, and therefore very high targets every month. So it was very, very stressful, very demanding.
But a lot of sales?
A lot of sales, yeah. I mean, we did huge turnovers, but a lot of visitors. I mean, we were seeing probably... anything up to...
So you're almost pre-internet then, aren't you? You're talking late 90s now, yeah.
Yeah, very much so, and pre-recession as well. We would have sort of 75 visitors in a week. In one, every week it would be like that. It was almost like you couldn't keep up with it, but it was amazing because it's so adrenaline fueled. We'd have people queuing at our desks with checkbooks during sale periods wanting to order.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a very different retail environment now. It was also very easy to spot the customer. That perhaps doesn't sound very good to say, but
Yeah, but you knew from the first question, didn't you? Really?
Well, you did, but also people dressed up to come shopping, you know, as bizarre as that sounds. So you could sort of see people that had made an effort to come into Ripples because they wanted to buy their bathroom from us. So,
it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it was heady days, definitely. It was very long working days, you know, 6 days a week. But yeah, I loved it. I loved the buzz of it. And yeah, I was very driven on making sure the targets were achieved, and I just loved talking to the visitors that came in. You know, all different walks of life. I was never, I hear people say now.
Are these all retail customers, by the way?
A mixture. The majority were retail customers, but I did a lot of projects with. I kind of took the lead from Roger. He was very clear that, you know, he wasn't just going to sit at the desk in an empty showroom waiting for someone to potentially come in. You know, when the 2007 recession hit, you know, literally the business just overnight just went. Actually, no, that was when I was there. So it was.
Yeah, so there was 95. There was like the sort of Black Friday, wasn't it?
Which was very shortly after they'd opened.
Actually, that was 88, late 80s. Sorry, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah. So they hadn't been open very long. The accountant was saying, you know, call it a day. You know, cut your losses, kind of thing. And there was just no way Dad was going to let that happen. So he went out repping. And he repped at all the hotels in the area, architect firms. You know, he went up to London. He won a massive contract in London.
But you were doing the same.
I then followed his lead, and I had great relationships with some fantastic architect practices in Bath. You know, Vera Forsyth, I remember her very fondly.
We were doing hotels. We were doing
Coombe Grove
first
Manor.
name terms of all the companies. The building companies would send their clients in, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
because of the quality of the products, the service, and the designs, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was different times. You know, the builders are more savvy now in that they want that business for themselves. So we now need to win that business with the builder. We need to work with the builders more now. But back then it was very much that, you know, they came to us because they trusted us.
So how many years were you running a showroom?
13 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Miss it?
Sometimes I do. I don't miss the demand of it. You know,
it's intense, isn't it?
It's really intense, and I absolutely can be sympathetic. Not sympathetic. What's the word?
Empathetic.
Empathise. I can empathise with the franchisees. You know, they have to be there every day to make sure that showroom is open at 9 o'clock. It closes at 5:30. You know, that's a tie. It's a ball and chain. You know, it's like having another child. But yeah, I loved it. I loved the whole thrill of it. But after 13 years, you know, we won a lot of awards during that time in Bath. The designers, you know, as I said earlier, I want the designers to be rock stars, and I was very keen to push them to enter the awards because I knew that, you know, even if we were a finalist, but I'm delighted that we won many awards. But either way, you know, the PR that we garnered from that, the visitors that attracted, you know, we'd put signs in the windows, you know, winner, KBB Industry Awards, you know, anybody reading the magazines and seeing that, they're going to want to come to Ripples because we're the best at designing bathrooms. So I pushed all of that. You know, we had fabulous parties in the showrooms. I can remember filling a freestanding bath with, you know, we lined it with, we put a membrane of, you know, bin liners of whatever, filled it with ice and put mini bottles of champagne in with little straws in them. And that was a fantastic party. That was probably my favourite event within.
So we've had some fun,
time.
haven't we?
Yeah, we definitely have. So, but it isn't easy. I know it's very hard work to do it, but I feel today that I can contribute well to the business because I've experienced every aspect of the business and I know the work involved to win an order. It's, you know, there's an awful lot that goes in behind the scenes. I think we did a poll recently at one of our designer days, and I asked the designers, how many hours do you think you put into a client from the very initial inquiry stage through to their bathroom being installed? How many hours do you think you invest? And the average came out that it was about 14 hours per project. And that's per bathroom, I should say, not per client.
Sure.
So, we invest an awful lot of time in our processes, which I guess is why, you know,
because we care.
Yeah, we care an awful lot. Yeah.
the Christmas party. I've got to go back to the Christmas party. It's a big thing for you. It's a big thing for us. So why has it become so legendary in the industry now?
Well, I think if we go back all the years, I mean, you and I can probably remember when it was sort of, I don't know, maybe 10 of us sat around a table at, I think it was Lucknow Park Hotel. And we just had a big dinner party, and it's grown and grown. I think this year, I think it's around 85, 90 people coming. And it's just a fun night. I mean, it is literally the one night of the year where everyone is together. And yeah, we just always make it special. Roger has always wanted it to be, he loves the celebration. He's from a big family. He's one of 11.
Wow.
He loves the party. So he loves the fact it's black tie, that everyone dresses up and makes an effort, and everyone looks glamorous. This year we've gone for a Studio 54 theme, just to make it even more fun, I guess. But yeah, it's grown every year, and I love hearing, you know, I was talking to, I think it was Danny in Linfield the other day, and she's already got, I think, 2 dresses that she's got earmarked for it. The designers love it. We do our awards as well, which has grown and grown each year. So we kind of celebrate particular achievements within the group, be it as a showroom or an individual. So, you know, top showroom for sales, top individual for sales, the one that's given the most marketing support, perhaps. We also have our Colin Payne Special Achievement Award. So dear Colin was a franchisee of ours, as you obviously know. He had 3 of our showrooms, and we worked with him for several years. And he unfortunately, very sadly, died very suddenly. And in memory of Colin, we wanted to create the Colin Payne Special Achievement Award. So as a team, we kind of, you know, think, right, who this year has really gone above and beyond to be, you know, a team player, to really promote Ripples well, and just be a good sort of ambassador overall of the Ripples name. It's
a chance, isn't it? We can put a spotlight on somebody. We can sort of pick someone who might not be top of a league table, who might not be known for being number one at a certain thing, but be really important nonetheless to the business, that we can just remind everybody that they've made a massive contribution in another way. And I think it's like the customer service award. You know, we are a business, you know, we want to have fun, but we're a business. We've got to win, you know, we've got to win sales, we've got to win the customer over, and we've got to do our job properly. So if you can find the customer to write a review about you and to get consistently good reviews, as our showrooms now get, then it's only vital that we reward somebody who's got the most, because it encourages those to keep on happening. And that's just got to be great news for the business.
And those reviews aren't easy to come by. So, it's great when we see them. So the Christmas party, it's
Studio 54, watch out then, really.
Studio 54 theme, And we also have suppliers wanting to come now as well, which has only really been in the last 3 or 4 years. But I think word gets around and more seem to want to join us, which is fabulous. So,
So you're an event management company as well?
Yeah, it seems so,
Well,
I call on my previous life before Ripples for that, so,
Well, we must look forward to it then.
Yeah. So, Paul, what puts us up there that would make somebody want to come and visit Ripples and buy their bathroom from us?
I think they can trust us, and they can trust us because we do what we say we're going to do. We've got evidence of that. We've talked about the reviews. That is the evidence from other customers. We've got good credentials. We've won awards in our industry more than any other bathroom company.
Yeah.
And they're not just awards for turning out. They're awards for our design, for our marketing, for our showroom standards, for
customer service,
our business ideas, our contribution to our industry. And we're naturally very proud of all of those awards. And I think that provides, as I've said, the trust and the confidence. But I think if like once they've gone through the front door and that's all forgotten, I think fundamentally the biggest is the designers that you've mentioned and the franchisees. They meet people who are pleased to see them. That's not a given in retail. It's not a given, I think, in any industry, but it's a given in Ripples. And they're pleased to see them. They're pleased to chat to them, to talk to them, to listen to them, to be patient with them, and to solve their problems. And I think it's probably fair to say that having a new bathroom done is difficult. You know, knowing what to do. We've got more choice than ever before now in all of our lives. And it's stressful, actually, in all honesty. And I think that what the designers are truly excellent at is simplifying things. They can speak in plain English. They know what textures, colours, shapes, sizes. They're bathroom nerds in the nicest sense. They only specialise in bathrooms, and because that's their passion, as you said earlier, and that comes across authentically to the customer, I think the customer enjoys and is happy to share what it is that they're looking to do, what they don't want to spend, what they do want to spend, what they're worried about, what they're not worried about. And I think we can just make it easier for them.
Yeah.
And even though it's hard work, I think that we make it look easier than it is as a result, because we've got a team of people that are thinking about every little step behind the scenes. And I don't think many people can do that, in all honesty, not as consistently as Ripples can.
I'd agree with that. And I think I've always wanted it, and I know, it's perhaps not a realistic view, but I've always wanted it to be that we're very inclusive of the client and wanting to be able to help every visitor, irrelevant of what the investment is that they're wanting to make. I want them to leave knowing that they've had a great experience, even if it transpires that they can't work with us for whatever reason. I want them to know that they've been listened to and just had a great retail experience ultimately, that they've had wonderful refreshments, that they've had a conversation like you just said where they feel listened to, and they're not just left to look around a showroom and someone says bye when they leave and walk out the door. It's we walk our visitors to the showroom and we thank them for coming in. We're pleased to see them. That's what we're there for.
It's interesting because, again, a common question I'm asked by people that have just joined is in many ways, what's the minimum spend that you need to have for Ripples? And I find it interesting because I don't ever like answering that with a number, and I look vague. And I think fundamentally is that, well, let's look at what the customer's looking for. I mean, the good news is we've got now 40 key suppliers that we know make some fantastic products, but they're very different in price, they're very different in style, and they're very different in appeal to different people. And I think that we've got such a broad choice now. I consider one of my responsibilities is making sure that the products in that range are good value for money, and whatever they cost, they have to be really good value for money. And we have to be happy to put them in our own home, essentially. And because of that variance in price, I'd rather say to a customer, tell us what you want and we'll see if we can do it, because our floor that we won't go below is selling something that we think they'll be unhappy with in the future.
Yeah.
We've got to think about not 5 years' time, 10 years' time, but will this be something that they're happy to have bought in 20 years' time? And if the answer is yes, then we're happy to sell it to them. So it's one that we struggle with sometimes, isn't it? Because every customer is different and every requirement is different. Yeah. But on the whole, I think most customers can buy a bathroom from Ripples. Would you agree?
Yeah, I hope that they can. I like to think they can. I don't want any client to visit and feel that they can't afford Ripples, because I think, as you've just said, with the supplier catalogues that we've got, there's enough choice there, enough variation to be able to satisfy them. But what we won't ever renegade on is the quality of the product that we sell. So, yeah.
What would you say to a customer who thought they didn't have the right amount of money, whatever that means, to come into Ripples? If they said, oh, they look a bit expensive to me, what would you say?
I think I would just say go and visit them, meet them and tell them what you're looking to do, and you might be surprised. I remember years and years ago, I opened the showroom up. It would have been the 27th of December because we always close over Christmas. And I remember coming in and I was the first in, and all my family were at home. This was before you, Paul. No
offence.
And I was just thought, everyone's at home with the tin of roses, and here I am having to open the showroom. And the doorbell went, and someone had come in, and it was literally 5 minutes before we were due to open. And I sort of peered round thinking it would be one of the designers arriving. And this lovely woman came through the showroom, and she said, I've come to buy my bathroom. She said, I've seen that you've got your winter sale on. And she said, I've been saving my housekeeping for the last 3 years to buy in the Ripples winter sale. Wow. And of course, literally that just made my day. And she did buy from me. So, when I hear things like that, I just think, whilst Roger, my father, would love to think, the whole world has heard of Ripples. And I've been into some far-flung places in the world with him and found him on a beach bending someone's ear about Ripples. And just shaking my head at him, thinking they have never heard of Ripples, Dad. But we're always constantly wanting the brand out there, But, when people say things like that, it's nice to hear that people do aspire to the brand and want to buy a Ripples bathroom.
I agree.
So, Paul, like me, you've been in the business many, many years. So how did you become involved in Ripples? I can sort of take responsibility for that. And pre-Ripples, what did you do?
I guess I was in IT. I had spent since the age of 16 working with computers. I understood them. I was one of those people. And I was working at different companies. I'd worked for effectively Mr. Kipling Cakes. I'd worked for Ensley Insurance, and I was doing well. I was enjoying my job. I felt a little bit constrained in that I looked at the future and I felt I saw what it looked like. It's an odd thing to say, but I felt I could see the organisation chart. I was climbing it quite quickly, and I didn't like where it went. I don't know why. It just didn't feel right. And as you know, your father Roger's very infectious, and his enthusiasm for the organisation was in many ways the opposite of what I was experiencing at work. And secondly, is that there was no organisation chart, there was no roadmap, there was a blank sheet of paper. And we had a drink one day. I remember it, and he said to me, I said to him, "What's your plan?" And he said, "I don't know, but let's find out. Let's see where it goes and take it for a spin." Almost, those are perhaps my words, but. So effectively, I guess I liked the unknown. So anyway, I joined the showroom the very end of 98. As you know, our son was born about a month later.
Yeah.
So we were sort of thrown into being new parents and the strain of caring for a baby whilst trying to run the showroom between us. I remember that not being fun times at all.
I can remember Charlie being in his little car seat rocker by the jacuzzi bath at the time that was running, just so that he'd have a background noise so he would sleep so we could work.
I think paternity leave in those days was about 4 hours, wasn't it? But so it seems a long time ago now. So that was late 98, and I then stayed in the showroom for 2 years. I needed for myself to master it. I needed to understand literally every aspect of it from front door to back door, and being alien to it, that was really quite challenging. And I didn't realise at the time actually how much I needed to know that. It was useful clearly at eventually in the showroom, but now when I'm with new franchisees, I'm fully aware of, even though the actual methods have improved, the systems have clearly changed, the principles of what's happening and the why is exactly the same. And I've sat there in front of that typewriter, and I've sat there with bits of paper coming out of my ears and carried boxes up and downstairs and done everything that our franchisees are asked to do. And you enjoy doing, let's be honest, except when there's too much of it to do. But so I did all of that for 2 years, and that knowledge was really helpful because I could then help Roger as he's opening the new showrooms, because I could work there. I could show them what to do. I knew who to talk to, where to find answers. I'd helped Roger develop the operations manual. He'd done all of the hard work on it, and I'd started to extend it. My IT knowledge, I think, did bring a lot of system disciplines. We ditched the typewriters. We ditched quite a lot of paper. I think we were one of the first companies for many customers using email, which was a very new thing in those days. And it made us much more efficient. And it was those efficiencies that became also part of the Ripple system, and still exist in many ways today, albeit in different ways. So we were a good combination, all of us actually. And I think that's probably worked quite well, is that we've all actually had different strengths. So I've kind of been doing that really since 2002. And it seems strange to describe it like that, because in reality, I feel like every week and every day is different. And it seems so easy to describe. But now, like you, we visit the showrooms. We speak to them, you more than me, on a regular basis. We've got the group meetings that we hold with them. And we now are less about trying to pass on the knowledge that we have, aren't we? We're now we're asking more questions. We're prepared to listen to experts outside the business more, aren't we? And we want to focus on how does the organisation get better, but also actually how do we facilitate providing, if someone's doing something great, let's pass it around. Let's make sure everybody knows what's going on. So, that's my, whatever it is now, 26 years. Doesn't time fly?
When you're having fun.
Having fun, yes. Let's remember that.
Yep.
Nicola, somebody walks into one of our showrooms. What are you looking for the designer to be able to do? What is that Ripples experience that we're looking for them to pass on to the customer? How would you describe that?
Well, I guess firstly, I would want them to make the client feel welcome, to make the visitor welcome. I'm very aware it can be quite intimidating coming into one of our showrooms, particularly if, it's I always sort of sit myself in the showroom when I'm thinking about a visitor, and I think they're walking in and the franchisee might be, working on something on the computer, the designer might be doing a design, there's music playing, but ultimately it's quite quiet in that showroom. And I imagine myself then walking in as a customer to that showroom, and I'm quite a self-conscious person, so I know that I would feel quite intimidated in that environment, which is the last thing I want our clients to feel. So I make it very sort of a key point to the franchisees and the designers that they've got to create an atmosphere in the showroom, and that it's like theatre. So if a visitor comes in, they need to be up on their feet, not in the face of the visitor straight away, but actually creating an atmosphere between each other, going over to the desk and, oh, Mrs. Smith's tiles have come in, you need to give her a call, making it up basically. The senses are important. So whatever music is playing, I can remember Sundays at home. I was 16 when Ripple started. On a Sunday, Roger, who used to be a volunteer hospital DJ, he'd sit on the floor at home with all his vinyls and his CDs and everything, and he'd do...
well, this was cassettes, to be fair.
It was cassettes, you're right, Paul. He would do playlists for the showrooms, and depending on what sort of style or age range or whatever that client was, he'd run out the back. That would be the first thing he would do, is run out the back and put the music on so it was suitable to that visitor. So, if it was... a sort of 70-year-old professor type, he might put on Pavarotti or something. If it was a younger couple, he might have put on, I don't know, Snow Patrol or Coldplay or something. But he wanted them to feel like comfortable in the environment. So the music was always important. The volume of the music is important. I don't want to be shouting. I can't hear if it's too loud. The smell, does it smell beautiful, or am I smelling somebody's spag bowl that they warmed up from last night's dinner? Please don't do that, designers, because that's a real pet hate of mine. So it's making sure every aspect of it is welcoming to the customer first and foremost, and when they're coming in, that they're not left to feel like they're walking around a museum.
Sounds like a seduction. Yeah,
we are. We're courting them ultimately. And we want to get them to first base, to put it basically. We want to have a conversation with them, and we don't want to talk about bathrooms straight away. When we are talking to a client, we want to get to know them. What's brought them in here today? How have they heard of us? That's really important to know how they've heard of us. For many reasons. It's, is the local marketing working? Is the national marketing working? Where have they seen or heard of Ripples? Or, it also then helps paint a picture of who that client is. Because if they come in and they've said, oh, we saw you in House and Garden, compared to Living, etc., you can get a feel for their style, perhaps, because they're very different publications. So it's understanding who you've got in your showroom quite quickly is really important, and making them feel comfortable. We offer refreshments to every visitor, and that's not, here's a mug of tea in a paper cup, perhaps. It's a beautifully presented tray with fresh coffee. You almost get a coffee menu. I don't drink coffee, but, do you want a flat white or a latte or an espresso? It's got to be amazing coffee. We want them leaving talking about the coffee. If they don't want coffee, we put fresh water on the table with them with a glass. It's just there ready for you if you want it. We celebrate, if somebody's having fun in the showroom, let's open a bottle of champagne and have some fun with them. It's a massive investment having your bathroom done. And for a lot of people, it might be a once-in-a-lifetime investment even. So we want them to enjoy the whole process. It is stressful. There's no question of that. And it is a lot of money. So let's make it a nice process throughout for them. Let's make them enjoy it. So, so first and foremost, we create a welcoming environment in the showroom for them. We get to know them. And then ultimately we have a range of questions that we want to get the answers to that, it's not rocket science, but we're wanting to know why they're doing the project, who's using the bathroom, what type of product they like, obviously, who's going to install it for them. That's really important as well. Do they want us to put them in touch with people that we work with regularly, or have they got their own guys? And ultimately, the big question, how much do they want to invest in the project? And if we can get all of that right and we listen to them and we inspire them and we excite them and enthuse them, and show them examples of what we've done previously. Every showroom pretty much, I think, has a TV in there. And, the marketing team have created this fantastic reel of bathrooms that we've designed and installed that run on a loop. And I know if I was sat at one of the desks in the showroom, I'm going to look at that TV and I'm going to go, that's it. That's the style I love. I want that, and then it's delving into what products make up that bathroom and understanding, again, going back to the investment, well, that bathroom costs X amount. You're looking to invest this amount. So we can absolutely create that look for you. We may just have to swap products out. Please be assured, though, they're still the best quality. We only work with the best quality suppliers. So it's the consultation stage is the most important stage. And I always say that that's when the order is taken. Not physically, but that's when you do the deal, because the customer has to like you. They've got to love working with you. They've got to leave the showroom saying, I want Nicola to design my bathroom. They absolutely wouldn't want me because I'm not a designer, but they want to leave remembering the name of who they've just spoken to. And of course, buying from Ripples, the safety of Ripples, the security of that 36 years of heritage of the brand. We take a lot of time interviewing the client. I guess we would say in-house, as an in-house word, it is interviewing them. I think I watched a YouTube video years ago with Kelly Hopham, who we all know and respect greatly within the industry. And I think she said she had something like a 13-page, it could have even been more than that, it could have even been a 50-page document that she gives to her potential clients. And they have to answer the questions in it because obviously she's designing whole homes and we're just doing a bathroom. But she said, I want to know what side of the bed they get out of. I want to know what side of are they left or right-handed? Do they shave, wet shave or use an electric razor?
Yeah.
Do they love cooking? I need to understand all of their requirements, and that's what we need to understand in the bathroom.
So there's a lot happening in that first meeting.
Absolutely. My favourite thing that I used to say to clients, and it's a little bit cheesy, and there's different ways you can say it, but it's almost like, if you won the lottery tomorrow, what would your dream bathroom look like? And it's almost just having fun with them. And to most people, they wouldn't actually know what you can do in a bathroom. So, you fire ideas at them. Do you want steam? Do you want a sauna? Do you want full ceiling floor to ceiling marble, which would be my dream? Underfloor heating, heating pads in the mirror so that when you have your hot bath, the mirrors aren't all steamed up. Suggest loads of ideas and write it all down. And then at the end, you might say to them, double basins. Yeah, double basins. We'll get divorced if we don't have double basins. And then at the end of it, your numbers didn't come up this week. What would your priorities be? Clearly the double basins, because we don't want you to get divorced. But it's then hone in on those points and build from there.
So it's a real mix of almost art and science. There's a lot of logic to everything.
Yeah.
But the theatre aspect that you've mentioned, we've got to perform, we've got to create, we've got to stimulate, and we've just got to actually make it fun.
Yeah, make it fun for them, make it interesting, because bathroom shopping isn't going to be for everybody. And, I think we've had marriage counselling sessions by some designers when they've got a husband and wife sat opposite them that might have very different views of what they want the bathroom to look like. They have to be quite sensitive at times. But it's really understanding that brief. And I often hear with new designers to the group, they'll say, oh, yeah, we did the consultation and it went really well. And yeah, I'm popping out next week. We don't pop out. You've got to make sure the client understands the value of every step of the process that you're doing with them, because otherwise they won't value it. They will take advantage of it. And, different things can happen there. They can come back to you at the presentation and say, yes, you did come in at the price that we agreed, but what discount are you going to give me? Or they could come in for the presentation and want to take the designs away with them without placing a deposit. Well, if you remember at the first meeting, I did explain to you, once the deposit's paid, the designs are yours, and, we can absolutely make sure that we get all those to you. So it's just really taking the time to explain to the customer how we work and making sure that that's what they want. You know, are they happy with that? It's not our terms. It's does that work for the customer?
Okay.
And then from there, we then go out to the house. We do a full survey. And then we come back to the showroom, and that's where the fun part for the designer really starts, because that's the creative process, putting the design together, the mood board, the specification, and then the presentation. They come in and they're hopefully wowed by it all.
Hopefully order.
Yeah. So anybody seeing a franchise recruitment ad, either online or through our marketing, what would they need to do next? What would be the process of them then making an inquiry about having their own Ripples showroom? And also, what does it look like becoming a new franchisee?
My best advice to anybody is to do research on us, to find out. We've put videos, we've got live case studies on our webpage. They can find out from existing franchisees what they've said about life in Ripples, where they came from, why they did it, and I guess how they found it. And I think that it's really important that people understand that beyond the fancy images, the glamour of beautiful bathrooms and what is the nice story of Ripples, it's a lot of hard work. It's, as you know, we've covered here today, there's a lot of stress. It's a lot of effort that sometimes doesn't pay off that day, that week. And I think that it's not for everybody. And we're keen that people come to us fully aware of what that looks like. And if they've already gone on a similar journey, then maybe they own their own showroom and they're looking to rebrand, or they are actually managing a showroom and they're looking to take the next step, they've probably got a good understanding of what that's like. We work in an industry that's quite difficult in the sense that the suppliers are manufacturers, they're not necessarily service providers, so we have to fill some gaps there. So do the research, look at the videos, visit showrooms, mystery shop, whatever you want to do, and then get in touch. You know, as much as there's information, let us know who you are. There's a great booklet that you can download that I think answers most initial questions and more. We've deliberately designed it around the questions that we're typically asked to be as helpful as we can. And we'll then follow up with a hi, thank you for getting in touch, and have a coffee. It's something that Roger likes to do himself, so that they can understand about the company and what it really involves and what's on offer. And then we have, I guess, what's best described as a discovery day. And in reality is it's a cup of coffee. Come down and see us and bring your notepads, bring your questions, and we'll do the same. Get to know us and we will get to know you. And we'll ask you questions about your why, what you're doing, and what's made you want to change your life. And we're kind of interviewing each other, really. And I think, like most relationships, you always get a good hunch from the first meeting with somebody, certainly typically that you do. And we would describe that discovery day as maybe a 3 to 4 hour meeting tops, certainly typically 3. And on the whole, I think people leave knowing where they're going with it. Either maybe this isn't for me, maybe it's for me another day, or can't wait to get on with this. And if we feel the same, and we don't always, but obviously that's a unique situation, then the reality is that we quite literally will hold their hand, as you know, from the start to the end, to finding showrooms, to training, to designing this. Really anything that we think that we can assist with, recruiting staff for that showroom, is that we've done it before now. We know what mistakes are there to be made. We've got a good format, good disciplines, and we've got a lot of experience and knowledge. So I would say it's maybe not as hard as they think that it is to actually get their own showroom open. It may be harder than they realise to run the business successfully, but I'd also say that we're much better than perhaps people realise at helping them be successful in that showroom, because we're very good at what we do.
Is there a preference of career background that you'd be looking for in a new franchisee?
Yes, there is. I think we have to be honest and recognise that you have to understand bathrooms, really. And we've got some great successes with people that haven't understood bathrooms and really have been thrown in the deep end. And as a result, and because of their commitment to what they've done and their attitude, they've really come out well. But it's not fun swimming at the deep end. And If they have that knowledge, it can be a downside. They might have ways of working that aren't characteristic with Ripples,
Yeah.
and they might not be willing to change. And that's something that we have to try to spot at the interview. But as a positive, if they understand bathrooms, they understand customers, they understand the supply chain, and they understand that Ripples way, and as I said, they fit into our culture, our character DNA, then often there's plenty of people out there that I could absolutely believe would be really good at running a Ripple showroom. Whether they're all in the financial position to make that step, I think they'd be surprised at how supportive banks are with new businesses, particularly franchise businesses. It's a massively growing sector in the UK. The banks are desperate for more franchisees because it's lucrative. And it's lucrative because franchisees are less likely to fail. So that's obviously testament to franchising. So I would say to anybody, get in touch, because it might be you that is running your own showroom, your business, your company, but as part of our organisation, and therefore the best of both worlds.
Can you give an idea of what sort of investment would be needed to start your own Ripple showroom?
I can, yeah. Typically, and it's full of variables because the size of a showroom influences the costs, as does the condition that it's in when we find it.
Yeah.
And of course, we wouldn't take on premises that were bigger than the budget that we had. But essentially, rule of thumb, you could open a Ripple showroom. It could cost you £100,000 total as an exercise. How much you need to have, the banks will lend you 70% of that. So really, you've got to find yourself with 30,000 under the bed in the mattress, or capital that you can put forward. The banks can even provide guarantees on that. They can get those from the government in many cases. So you're not signing your house away in most cases. And 100,000 really doesn't take long to get back. You know, it's not guaranteed to be paid back. No business can do that. But it can come back very, very quickly. And of course, from that point onwards, it's a business that's rewarding you every single year. And it's also a business that's actually building its value as an asset. So if you do decide one day to sell it on because you want to retire, you fancy doing something different, then your hard work is literally there to be sold as a going concern. So as I said, every business needs to be successful for it to be a good business. But we're geared with the banks and everybody else so that hopefully it's not too far out of reach for most good people.
So, Paul, one thing that we're particularly proud of within Ripples, and something I think that you particularly could take an awful lot of the credit for, is the very close relationship we have with the fantastic charity that we work with. So I'm going to let you take the floor and share all of the story of that and how the relationship formed and who the charity is and what we do with them today.
Well, I mean, thank you for that. I mean, we've always wanted to have a relationship with a charity. We've always wanted to be, I guess, put something back, quite simply. And we didn't really know who to. There's obviously Bath charities that we were keen to support and did support. But we felt as the group was growing, we needed to be less localized and find a national charity. So we actually found a charity that at the time was called Wherever the Need. And the reason they attracted us, because basically they built toilets. And they built them in countries where they had no toilets. And those toilets effectively, quite remarkably, which we didn't know at the time, but remarkably, literally fed villages. And they fed villages because the waste was actually being used to fertilize crops. The crops are then feeding the village. So it's kind of a great investment. And at the time, I think these toilets, they were called EcoSan toilets, were about £550 each. So it wasn't a big stretch to fund one. And then the charity sends you pictures of the school where it's being built, the pictures of it after it's being built, pictures of the children thanking you for using it. And it's quite contagious. It's quite infectious. So essentially, as our efforts increased, as our own desire to help ultimately increased, and as the organisation grew, the funds naturally grew. And it then migrated to much larger toilet blocks, tending to stick with the sanitation aspects of it. We put in a really big unit at a disabled school in southern India in Tamil Nadu, and it was one of the first in the country to do that. And effectively it meant disabled children could use really decent toilets and not walk into, or in some cases drag themselves literally into a field. And I'm fortunate enough to have been there, and I've obviously seen it and seen the gratitude amongst the teachers and the pupils. And as I said, it does get under your skin, but not because of the it's not the negatives. I thought it would be the upset that I would most feel, and you do feel upset, but actually it's the positivity and it is that gratitude. So we've just essentially promised the charity themselves have evolved. I'm delighted to say they now branch out into, they do training with children. They do happy periods training, which we've supported. We raised, I love my cycling. I've done my best to do a bit of cycling, and we've now had 4, if not 5, charity cycling events. And
Where have you gone?
we've been to Paris 3 times with different people. The organisation has supported us well, friends, family, strangers, people in the industry. The requirement is they've got to enjoy cycling, have fun, and raise money.
Yeah.
And so we've done that, which has been challenging and rewarding.
And the Snowdon Challenge that I mentioned that we all did, well, 30 odd of us in the group did in June. What's the project that's going to benefit from that?
Well, first of all, I have to say that not everyone loves cycling. So we needed a new event. And it was at one of the, we were at a factory in Poland with our franchisees. And as you know, we like to do that. And I said to Harriet, she loves walking. I said, find something that everybody would be able to participate in. As the more people that participate, the more we'll raise. Next thing you know, as you've said, we're walking up Snowdon, and that was great fun.
In bracing conditions.
Yeah. And it was great because it was people that hadn't been able to support us before, and it's great fun. You know, there's no downside in doing it. But literally last week, at the time of this, there was a blessing of the ground at this particular school in India, and we're building a toilet block that will be for 140 girls.
Wow.
There's 15 female teachers, and it will last 20 years. And the legacy, the immediate benefit and the legacy are both the same, in that basically children stay longer at school. You know, girls don't have to go into the fields. It's quite a harrowing graphic story of what happens, you know, in those environments. But basically, they're in a safe, clean environment, which means that they attend school. And if they attend school, they're better educated. If they're better educated, they can live a healthier life. Their children are more likely to survive, you know, literally survive. And that was quite literally, that's a £20,000 project, which really doesn't feel much at all. So, again, we'll go out to see it. We'll look at what's going on in a few years, and we'll find a way next year.
I was going to say, what's next? What's the next fundraising for them?
Well, anything people are prepared to support is the answer. And I'm more aligned, obviously, to the cycling. I'm prepared to put my neck on the line and say, if I can persuade 50 people to ride and raise 50,000 between us, then I'll find a way of making it happen. I don't know how, but we will. We'll also look at doing another Snowdon. There's a date in the diary. I know Harriet's keen to do it, and I know Harriet will do it if people are prepared to do it with her. And I think somebody else somewhere will have another idea that we will be happy to support. We invest in it ourselves as a company, as you know, because we want to put our money where our mouth is, and we want to do the right thing. And I'm pleased to say that actually, alongside all the work that we do on the sustainability and the desire to just look after the planet better, we're novices really compared to where we need to be, but we're getting better and we're working hard at it. I think it's helped us have a better identity again across the industry in particular, and hopefully with our customers, as being family business, decent people, authentic and honest, and just trying to do the right thing and ultimately not be anything that we don't say that we are. And I think that we're just maturing really as people and as a business, and I hope that's recognised.
I've enjoyed this. It's been nice reminiscing about the history of Ripples. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day every week in the role, and forget about where it all began and what we've achieved actually, and how far we have come, because we've come an awful long way. And as you referred to earlier, you know, you and I are still young enough to want to push forward with it and see it continue to grow. Be that with new showrooms or just making the existing showrooms even stronger and more successful.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we're busy people. Everybody's busy, aren't they? And we tend to be focusing on the things that maybe need to be improved, the things that need to happen. We're focused on the future and the current. And I think a chance to have a look back is rare, because to a certain extent it doesn't matter, it's gone. But it's nice to recap because it provides confidence and a nice springboard to say, well, the effort is paying off.
Yeah.
You know, that the little things that we do are making a difference in the big picture. And if we keep getting that balance right, then hopefully that will be the case in the future. So, yeah, it's been good to chat, Nicola. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
We need the story of how you guys met.
Well, this isn't a good story, Sam. I'm not sure I want to document it.
It's not the most glamorous.
So, Nicola. Yeah.
It was in the Ship in Wandsworth. Do you know that pub? No. It's quite a famous, well-known pub. Yeah. The Ship in Wandsworth, and we were at a ski reunion and a birthday party for me. Fortunately, I hadn't gone on the ski trip, otherwise I don't think we would have ended up together. But yeah, we just ended up flirting all evening. Paul managed to throw up at some point during the evening and still managed to kiss me. And
Wow,
yeah,
okay.
I know. Yeah, and that was it.
You must have really liked it.
Yeah.
I should point out, Nicola was quite drunk on tequila.
Obviously, I kissed you.
Alcohol was a good friend in those days.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Made it, though.